You're falling from a skyscraper, heart pounding, certain you'll be dashed to pieces on the street below. But just before impact, you wake up. What was that dream about? Why do we experience these seemingly random nighttime adventures? And what exactly happens to our brains when we dream? Hi, it's me, and welcome to my channel. Over the course of our lives, we spend about 6 years dreaming. That's almost 2,200 days. So why does our brain dedicate so much time to creating these nightly fantasies? To answer that question, let's explore the fascinating science of dreams. In 1953, an American neurologist named Eugene Aserinsky made a groundbreaking discovery that forever changed our understanding of sleep. Working with colleagues at the University of Chicago, he found that 90 minutes into sleep, our eyes begin darting rapidly beneath our eyelids. He called this stage REM sleep after the Latin word for rapidus, meaning rapid. We now know that REM is also when our brains create the most vivid dreams. Before Aserinsky's discovery, we didn't know when or how our dreams occurred. But his research opened up a whole new world of sleep science. He observed that animals don't display REM sleep, which suggested that dreaming may be unique to humans. But other scientists soon proved this wrong. By implanting electrodes in the brains of cats, researchers found they too experienced REM sleep and therefore probably dreamed. This raised a more pressing question though. What does REM sleep actually do? To find the answer, let's dive deep into your brain while you dream. When we dream, our brains consume 20% of our body's energy. That might sound shocking, considering that when we're wide awake, our brains only use around 10 to 20% of our total energy. But when we dream, our brains go into overdrive, creating elaborate stories, intense emotions, and bizarre experiences from bits of memories we've stored away. One function of dreams, then, is that they use up our brain's energy processing memories. In fact, during REM sleep, the parts of our brain responsible for memory, the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex, light up like a Christmas tree. But what exactly are they doing? Let's follow a memory trace as it journeys through your sleeping brain. Throughout the day, your brain collects information. Some of it you find useful, some not so much. But how does your brain decide which memories to keep and which to discard? It turns out that certain memories are more important than others. Those that help us adapt to our environment, survive, reproduce, and pass on our genes. These important memories are the ones your brain will prioritize and store in the long term. It does this during REM sleep. Imagine your most recent cup of coffee. You remember the warmth of the mug and the rich aroma, because those details helped you feel energized. But do you remember the exact chemical composition of that brew? Probably not. Your brain has filed away the important stuff and forgotten the rest. This is what your brain does every night during REM sleep. Transfers important memories from short-term to long-term storage and discards the unimportant ones. Now you might be wondering, how does it decide which memories are important? Well, that's where things get really interesting. See, our brains don't process memories in a linear way. Instead, they take a more holistic approach. While we sleep, our brains essentially run through all the memories we've collected that day and decide which ones are important based on their overall significance. This process is known as memory consolidation. Memory consolidation is vital for our survival. Imagine if every time we went outside we had to relearn the skills we needed to navigate our environment. We wouldn't be able to function very well, would we? Memory consolidation ensures that we retain the knowledge and skills we need to survive. So what exactly happens to those unimportant memories that are discarded during REM sleep? Well, they're not exactly deleted, but they're essentially lost in the shuffle. This means that they're still stored somewhere in our brains, but they're not easily accessible. This is why sometimes you can't quite remember a word or a name, but it's on the tip of your tongue. But what about those important memories that are transferred to long-term storage? What happens to them? Well, they undergo a process known as reconsolidation, which makes them more resistant to being lost during future memory consolidation sessions. This is why sometimes you'll have a dream that takes you back to an important event in your life, like your first kiss or the birth of a child. Your brain is essentially revisiting these memories to ensure that they're properly consolidated and stored away. The limbic system, particularly the amygdala, becomes hyperactive during REM sleep, helping you process your fears, anxieties, and other emotional experiences. The limbic system is a collection of structures in the brain that are involved in processing emotions. The amygdala is one of the most important structures in the limbic system, and it plays a key role in processing fear and anxiety. When you're awake, Your amygdala is constantly scanning your environment for potential threats. When it detects a threat, it activates the fight, flight, or freeze response. This response is designed to help you deal with the threat. It increases your heart rate and breathing, and it triggers the release of stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. But when you're asleep, your amygdala continues to scan for threats. But it doesn't activate the fight, flight, or freeze response. Instead, it sends signals to other parts of your brain that process emotions. This allows you to process your fears and anxieties in a safe environment. This is why you often dream about being chased or attacked. Your amygdala is essentially taking you through a mental rehearsal of these experiences, so that you be better equipped to handle them in the future. Our brain has a built-in protection system that kicks in during REM sleep, a system that prevents us from acting out our dreams and potentially harming ourselves. This system involves a complex interplay of nerves and chemicals that work together to keep us paralyzed while we dream. First, during REM sleep, our brain activity resembles that of a person who's awake and alert. This means that our brain is highly active and capable of generating complex thoughts and emotions. However, at the same time, our body is completely relaxed and unable to move. This state is known as atonia, or muscle paralysis. Atonia is controlled by a part of the brainstem called the pontine tegmentum. This area of the brain sends signals to other parts of the brain and spinal cord that result in muscle paralysis. At the same time, our brain releases chemicals that block the signals from our brainstem. This effectively prevents us from moving or acting out our dreams. One of the chemicals it releases is glycine. Glycine is an amino acid that acts as a neurotransmitter in the brain. As a neurotransmitter, glycine binds to receptors on the surface of nerve cells, which inhibits their activity. In other words, it turns off the signals that would otherwise tell our muscles to move. Another chemical our brain releases is galanon, which works similarly to glycine by inhibiting nerve activity. Together, these chemicals keep us paralyzed while we dream. But why does our brain need to keep us paralyzed while we dream? There are a few reasons. First, it prevents us from hurting ourselves while we dream. If we were to act out our dreams, we could seriously injure ourselves or others around us. Second, it helps us maintain a safe sleep environment. If we were to thrash around in our sleep, we could make a lot of noise and wake people up. This could disrupt their sleep and potentially put them at risk of injury. Finally, it allows us to consolidate our memories more effectively. When we're paralyzed, our brain is able to focus on processing memories without being distracted by external stimuli or our own movements. Studies showed that REM sleep enhances creativity by 23%. That's because our brain breaks free of logic and rationality to make unusual connections between ideas. In 1865, the German chemist August was trying to figure out the structure of the benzene molecule. For years, he struggled with the problem, but he couldn't come up with a solution. Then one night, he dreamed of a snake biting its own tail, and he awoke with the insight that benzene's atoms were arranged in a ring. Since then, many scientists have credited dreams with providing them the creative spark they needed to solve complex problems. For example, the Swedish chemist Carl Weimer dreamed of a metal lattice and woke up knowing he discovered the structure of diamond. The Swiss psychologist Max Luscher used his dreams to develop the first color television. The French physicist Louis de Broglie dreamed of waves crashing on a beach, which inspired his research on the wave nature of matter. Dreams don't just help us with creative thinking, they also help us solve logical problems. For example, research has shown that people who get a good night's sleep are better at solving logic puzzles than those who don't. In fact, the benefits of REM sleep extend far beyond just problem solving and creativity. Getting enough REM sleep can improve our mood, increase our alertness, and enhance our overall cognitive performance. On the other hand, not getting enough REM sleep can lead to decreased creativity, mood disorders, and difficulty concentrating. It's unclear why certain people experience REM sleep more frequently. But researchers have identified a few factors that may play a role. For example, age appears to be an important factor. Infants and young children need more REM sleep than older children and adults. In fact, infants spend up to 50% of their sleep time in REM sleep. As we get older, the amount of REM sleep we need decreases. By the time we reach adulthood, most of us only need about 20 to 25% of our sleep to be in REM sleep. Gender is another factor that may influence how often we experience REM sleep. Studies have found that men tend to experience more REM sleep than women. This may be due to hormonal differences between the sexes. For example, women who are going through menopause may experience less REM sleep than premenopausal women. Overall, REM sleep is an essential part of a healthy sleep cycle. By understanding the science of dreams, we can learn how to get the most out of this important part of our sleep. All humans dream in similar patterns: falling, flying, being chased, or losing teeth. Some researchers believe this is because these patterns are hardwired into our subconscious minds. In other words, they're a product of our evolution. After all, we share these dreams with other mammals. But if you think that's fascinating, wait until you hear this. Scientists have actually mapped the brain activity that allows some people to become aware that they're dreaming. That's right. Some people can literally become conscious within a dream. They can even control their dreams. This phenomenon is known as lucid dreaming, and it's something that many people experience from time to time. Lucid dreamers report being fully aware that they're dreaming while they're in the dream state. They may also report having more control over their dreams than non-lucid dreamers. Lucid dreamers can manipulate their dreams, changing the setting, the characters, and the events that unfold. Some researchers believe that lucid dreaming is a sign of a highly developed prefrontal cortex. This part of the brain is responsible for higher-level thinking skills, such as decision-making and problem-solving. Others believe that lucid dreaming is a sign of a strong connection between the prefrontal cortex and the parietal lobe. The parietal lobe is responsible for processing sensory information, such as touch and pain. Whatever the case may be, lucid dreaming is a fascinating phenomenon that shows just how complex and mysterious the human brain is. Who knows what other secrets it holds? As we wrap up our exploration of the science of dreams, let's take a moment to reflect on the deeper meaning behind our nighttime adventures. Perhaps dreams aren't just a byproduct of our brain's activity, but rather a fundamental aspect of what makes us human. From the most vivid memories to the deepest fears and anxieties, our dreams allow us to revisit and process our experiences in ways that we never could while awake. They connect us to our past selves, allowing us to grow and evolve in ways that we never imagined possible. And as we look to the future of sleep research, let us hope that we continue to unravel the mysteries of the human brain and the incredible world of dreams. Thank you for joining me on this journey of discovery. And if you want to continue learning about the amazing things our brains do while we sleep, hit subscribe for more mind-bending science. Now close your eyes, relax, and let your brain take you on a journey through the world of dreams. Who knows what incredible discoveries await?